Greetings and welcome back. It's been a while since I covered an article, or a news story, or in this case an article. And we are going to be talking, or I shall be talking, about our favorite country in Northeast Asia, South Korea. Very, very interesting article. I'd say it's alarming as well, but by now we're all used to this kind of crap, so nothing new there. A friend of mine brought this article and the specificities of what's going on with respects to military conscription in South Korea to my attention. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to read off the article, and I'm also going to, of course, post a link to that article, as well as to a more sort of detailed article, which I won't be reading off to you, and then I will discuss the content. So this was dated 4/17. That's, I guess, an American dating, or in the Koreans, 2013 4/17. So April 17th of April 2013, about a year ago. Extra points for serving in the military. The National Assembly's National Defense Committee held a General Assembly on Monday, April 15th, and tabled a motion to revise the current military service law. The revision allows a person who completed his military service to receive extra points, up to 2% of the score earned in each subject matter, when applying for a job with the government or public organizations. Extra points for serving in the military. A person who completed his military duty is eligible to receive additional points when applying for a job. This system aims to encourage people to fulfill their military duty and reward people who contributed to the nation's security by serving in the military. The military service period is already recognized as work experience and reflected in setting pay level. Korea has instituted the conscription system, making military service a mandatory duty for young men, usually in their 20s. That's 2 years, by the way. Since young people are in college or starting out in a career at that age, military service tends to leave a big gap in their studies or careers. The extra point system addresses this problem by rewarding men for their service. And now, systems abolition and resurrection. The extra point system for military service was criticized for being discriminatory against women. The Constitutional Court of Korea ruled in 1999 that giving bonus points for serving in the military was unconstitutional. Too many extra points were allowed, between 3 and 5% of the total scores, infringing upon the rights to be treated equal and to hold public office. This is not written in perfect English, for women, people with disabilities, or those who did not, for one reason or another, fulfill their military duty. Once the Constitutional Court decides that a law is unconstitutional, that law loses its effectiveness, leading to the abolition of the extra point system. The court's ruling naturally upset many men who already finished their military service or will soon enter a military, and baffled the military authority desperate to encourage men's military participation. Well, this is me talking, they're being conscripted. It's not like they really want to, some of them. The Ministry of National Defense has already been steadily working to resurrect the system since then, and recent revision proposal for the military service is one such attempt. Revision of the Military Service Act. The revision of the Military Service Act proposed, sorry, kind of maybe coming down with something, hopefully not, knock on wood, to the National Defense Committee allows the veterans' extra point system to be revived, but limits the points only to up to 2% of the scored points in each subject matter. Placing the ceiling on allotted points is meant to avoid any controversy surrounding the unconstitutionality of giving too many additional points, as noted by the Constitutional Court. The revision also restricts the number of those who passed employment tests with extra points within 20% of the planned recruits. When a person with bonus points passes a job recruitment test, his military service time will not be factored into his pay or job grade to prevent double application of benefits. Sainori Party lawmaker Han Ki-ho, who tabled the revision bill, claims that young Korean men feel more disadvantaged than proud for fulfilling their military duty, and said the nation is obligated to give just compensations to those who faithfully carried out their duty. And then finally, extra points for mothers. The revision of the Military Service Act with an aim to bring back the military bonus point system was once defeated during the 18th National Assembly, with fierce opposition from women's rights advocates groups. So the motion's fate this time is also uncertain. In relation to the extra point system for serving in the military, an additional point system for mothers has emerged as another hot issue. The National Assembly's Environment and Labor Committee is reviewing this clause in the Equal Employment Opportunity and Work Family Balance Assistance Act, which stipulates that women with childbirth and child rearing experiences should be granted bonus points when applying for jobs. Anyway, like I said, I think this was written by someone very competent in English, but it's not perfect. Anyway, so let me talk about this content. Now, it should go without saying, and I've said this many times in previous videos, quite obviously, that the dream that many men have in their loins, that they will, rush off to some Eastern country and sweep some woman off her feet and live happily ever after, that's been bust for quite some time. I said it in a video a while back. If men really want to chase that, they're going to have to end up living in some germ-eaten shanty in some rat-hole jungle in a poverty-stricken country, which South Korea is not. So already in 1999 there were problems, and this is ongoing. Now, is it a coincidence that this is put into place just after, or kind of during more or less, the Southeast/South Korean economic depression? I don't know. I'm not sure, but maybe. But what we see here is something that Barbara also has talked about, and I have as well, that men's interests and women's interests very often are diametrically opposed to each other. All this fanfare and nonsense about partnership and working together, that is not going to work. Women are going to push for their interests, and men, well, quite frankly, are not going to push for their own interests. Men are losing some of the best years. 2 years, I think, is the obligatory time of service. Korean men are losing some of the best years of their life to this military service, which, for which the argument, of course, is that they're in a perpetual state of war with North Korea, 60 years plus ongoing now, and they have to serve in the military. Okay, I guess that's a decent argument, but the reduction or the elimination of a bonus point system that was put in place to compensate for the time they lost for their service in the military, and I'm not a huge fan of the military, obviously, but they lost time. It makes sense within this context to compensate that time, and women don't lose that time. Now, of course, the argument, as we see later in the article, is that women lose that time via childbirth and blah, 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 blah. But in a more general sense, this article just highlights something that I've been talking about for a long time, that the ominous specter of politicized feminism is not something that's unique to the West. It is pretty much everywhere. And politicized feminism, capital F feminism, is just the overt manifestation of women, lowercase f feminists, pushing for their interests, pushing their interests into the public eye, making sure that legislation is enacted and things get passed in their favor. That's all it is. Men, and let me say, Korean men, generally speaking, unfortunately, are some of the biggest simps I've ever seen. They just let it happen, and this is what you end up with. So men are being conscripted, losing the benefits they receive after conscription, and at the same time, mothers are supposed to get bonus points for being inseminated and popping out babies out of their vaginas. I mean, this is the course of things, and this will happen more and more often as time goes by. And the reason is simple: this is not the ghost of Karl Marx twisting these women or conning the nation. This is just human biology at work. Women will always push for their interests, which very often, perhaps not always, are in direct and diametrical opposition to the interests of men. And this is something that men either just don't want to accept or extremely, extremely reluctant to accept. That is to say that you as a man, your interests are highly differentiated, and that's being very euphemistic, from the interests of a female. You have a different reproductive strategy, you have a different intellectual approach to life, and so on and so forth. And we see this manifesting itself on the battlefield of politics. And as always, in South Korea, more women participate in voting and what have you than do men. Now, no big surprise there. The other thing, of course, is that South Korea happens to have the first female president. She's been in office for about a year. Park Geun-hye. Since, well, ever. There's never been a female South Korean president before, but not just South Korea, but all of Northeastern Asia. And she has her opinions on things. So that's also not going to help very much. Now, given in-group preference, female in-group preference, do you think a female president, such as Park Geun-hye, would not, at least subconsciously, be in favor of policies like this and try to extend them and promulgate even more such policies? Absolutely. So there's no place to hide. There's no place to run to. I mean, people who are, it's been a while, but people who are still lost in this dream of escaping to the country X or Y because there the women are better. They're not better anywhere. Women are always women, and women follow their own biological drives and interests just like men do, only that for reasons too complicated for me to get into a kind of ranty video such as this, women's drives allow them to actively push for their own interests, whereas men's drives do the opposite, and that's been discussed, to be honest, at length as well. So there you go. This is, serve in the military, lose your points, lose your credit, and have a nice day. Hey, but if you're a mother, get extra points. I mean, this is just classic. Women get the benefits, men lose them. You see? And this is why, until men advocate for themselves in the political sense and organize themselves, and that's never going to happen because men are going to stay men just like women are going to stay women, you can forget it. This is going to get worse and worse in every developed country in the world. And this is why I say over and over and over again, until we completely reconstitute our ability to think as the human ape, there is no hope. I know people are all big on hope this, hope that. Rationality. We need to be rational about this. And look at what's happening. South Korea, one of the most conservative places in the world, perhaps the most conservative, and men are losing ground to women's rights groups and blah, blah, blah. So just an example of the ubiquity and omnipresence of lowercase f feminism as manifested by capital F feminism, politicized feminism. And men will just stand by in Korea, in the United States, pretty much everywhere. Anyway, I think I've said my piece. Like I said, there's be another article I'm going to attach to this. Just check it out. This was a bit of a rant, but yeah, this is not exclusive to the United States. I've been all over the world, and here you see the evidence. This is everywhere. Everywhere where you see mechanization, urban development, and freedom and mobility for women, you will see legislation and things like this, pushing for women's rights, as they call them, women's rights, to the exclusion of male rights. And until men start fighting for themselves as a group, I hate to say it, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. We do not have the same interests as women, and we need to stop pretending that we do. But, yeah, we know what's going to happen with that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and take care. May the gods watch over you. Bye-bye.